From the light comes the darkness. Go, dark baptism! Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you today Manjoume's manga deck. This deck is the deck that he used in the manga, upgraded for real life meta and using only real life cards. If you want to see Manjoume's deck using cards that were only featured in the manga, then stay tuned because I will be doing that next week. But for now, this is his manga deck. This deck focuses on summoning Light and Darkness Dragon as quickly as possible and using its effect to negate basically anything that your opponent will do, and anything that you'll do, but we don't talk about that. And then once its attack gets low enough, you go into Duality and Shadow's Light to bring out your Dark End Dragon and your Light End Dragon, as well as any other fusion or synchro monster in the extra deck that we can use. This deck is actually pretty damn powerful, and it gets out Light and Darkness Dragon very, very quickly and very easily. This deck is fully centered around summoning Light and Darkness Dragon and then just, shutting down and controlling your opponent. And even if you can't get it out, there'll still be plenty you can do. So let's get straight into it with the monsters. First of all, we have Armed Dragon, the Armored Dragon. This card is not fantastic, and if you'd want to swap it out, I would completely understand, but Manjoume does use this monster, and it can be used with its effect when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle. You can special summon a level 5 or lower Wind Dragon monster. Now, you could add in more Wind Dragon monsters to work with this card, which I did consider. I just didn't have room for it because, I was using too many of Manjoume's manga cards and I really wanted to summon Light and Darkness Dragon. But the one Wind Dragon monster that we do have is Lancer Lindworm. Again, another one of Manjoume's manga monsters, so I had to include it. This is one of the quote-unquote better monsters that he uses. Same with Dragon, these are basically the only good level 4s that he uses. Its effect does piercing damage. It's nothing special. Again, if you want to take them out, then feel free, but we're sticking to theme here. Next up, we have one copy of Burning Dragon. This card is actually fairly decent. If your opponent has 2 or more monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand, just like that. Very easy, 2500 attack, and then you can discard one spell to Harpy's Feather Dust to destroy all spell traps on the field. All spell and traps, that's a heavy storm, not a feather duster, my bad, but still, that is a fairly decent effect and it just looks completely badass, right? I mean, that is just really, really cool. If you don't know, when Manjoume summons this card, he actually uses a spell card to special summon it, and the spell card's effect was that if your opponent has 2 or more monsters on the field, you special summon a dragon from your hand. That is where they got that effect to special summon Burning Dragon. That's where that comes from. I just think that's really cool and it just looks really, really awesome. Next up, we have a card that Manjoume doesn't use in the manga, but it is a really good fit for this deck, Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Phrygian. This card is really strong, and I thought it was limited. What happened to that? Maybe not. It used to be banned, I think. Unless I'm thinking of something else. But still, this card is really good. If this card is in your graveyard, or if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can pay half your life points, then target a level 6 or lower monster you control, special summon this card, and if you do, this card's level is reduced by the level of the targeted monster. That basically, if this card is in your graveyard, it's a tuner monster, so you can special summon it and then immediately go into any level 7 synchro monster that you have really, really easily. So this card is just great. It's another alternative win condition to your Light and Darkness Dragon. Obviously, we want to go for Light and Darkness, but some hands you just can't make it, but you can almost always do this card at least, which will be great and get you out any of your level 7 synchro monsters. Next up, we have one copy of Genesis Dragon. This is another card that Manjoume uses in the manga, which is the main reason that we use it, and it is one of the better ones. This card, you can send a dragon from your hand to the graveyard to add a dragon from your graveyard to your hand. This is a fairly decent effect. It gets dragons in our hand. It's an easy way to get our Red Eyes Darkness Medal to the hand, and allows us to get Light and Darkness back to the hand as well, which allows us to then normal summon it. Next up, just like I said, we have one copy of Red Eyes Darkness Medal Dragon. Manjoume doesn't use this. This card is actually used by Fubuki in the anime, but it is a really good addition to the deck. This card is great for any dragon deck, and I shouldn't have to explain that. Next, of course, we have our win condition, Light and Darkness Dragon. We have 3 copies of Light and Darkness Dragon. We run 3 because we really want to either see this in the hand or send it to the graveyard, but having it in the hand is just as good. Either way, it works. with the combo. So Light and Darkness Dragon, this card is very powerful, unfortunately cannot be special summoned. It is also treated as a dark monster, and during either player's turn when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, this card loses 500 attack and defense, and that activation is negated. So this comes with basically 5 Omni negates, and just completely, like, you can shut down your opponent's entire hand just by summoning this card if you're lucky, if they can't get over it soon enough. But the downside is that it does lose a lot of attack, and its effect is mandatory once per chain, so that is unfortunate, but it is still a very powerful monster, and we have ways to either get its attack back or get rid of it when we need to. Next up, for the main Light and Darkness combo, we have 3 copies of Samsara Dragon. This card is treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a dragon monster, so it is good to see it in the hand for the combo. He can either be summoned and tributed, or he can be discarded with Dragon Ravine to get its effect off from the graveyard. When this card is in your graveyard, you can banish it, then target a level 5 or higher dragon monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and then you can immediately tribute summon that monster. So obviously, you get this in the graveyard, you get Light and Darkness in the graveyard, and then you either get a Samsara Dragon or a Wish Dragon on your field, or just 2 monsters, and then you can tribute summon into Light and Darkness Dragon by using Samsara Dragon's effect. This is probably the best combo for summoning Light and Darkness Dragon. It uses it uses basically only Manjoume cards to pull this combo off. Like, Samsara Dragon is one of Manjoume's cards, which he uses in the manga, and yeah, it's probably the best. I haven't seen a better option for summoning Light and Darkness. This is the easiest and quickest way to do it as far as I know. Finally, we have 3 copies of Wish Dragon. This card can be tributed to special summon 2 dragon tokens. This makes it very easy to bring out your Light and Darkness Dragon. It obviously pretty much counts as 2 tributes, right? You tribute them, get 2 tributes, get 2 tokens. Use Samsara Dragon, bring back your Light and Darkness, tribute those tokens to summon your Light and Darkness Dragon. So that is the main combo there. Now, the only problem with that is that you need a monster in the hand and 2 monsters in the graveyard. So that's where our spells and traps come in. That's where our spells come in. We don't have any traps. But before we get to that, just a quick announcement. One of the last times that we're going to say this, Manjoume merch is on my shop. If you would like to check that out, you can see all of these epic Manjoume designs. I designed them myself. You can get them on posters, you can get them on shirts, you can get them on mugs, you can get them on friggin' whatever else you want to put it on, a pillow, a game mat. You can put it on a old, either like a Yu-Gi-Oh game mat, a mouse pad, that's what I was looking for. You can put it on a mouse pad, you can put it on all sorts of stuff. As you can see in the background, I have these 2 epic posters there. These are my favorite designs. I did them myself, and they're like, I think they're pretty cool. I'm really happy with how they came out, so yeah, if you guys would check those out, that would be really great. Any money that comes in helps the channel grow and really helps me out, so that would be much appreciated. You can check those products at the link in the description. That's senkara.myspreadshop.com. There will be a link in the description, as well as tagged products. I'm also wearing a Senkara shirt. This is another thing that you can get. Everything that we've got so far is really, really high quality, and I'm really happy with how it turned out, so you have no problems. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you don't like what you get, you're not satisfied, you can send it back, get your money back, no worries whatsoever. But that's all for today. Thank you very much. Let's get back into the deck. So these spells, we have 3 copies of Dragon Ravine. Manjoume doesn't use this card, but it is important for the strategy. Like I said, we need 2 monsters in the graveyard, right? So you either need your Light and Darkness Dragon and your Samsara Dragon in the graveyard. Dragon Ravine is a great way to get that done, as is Dragon Shrine. We run 3 copies of Dragon Shrine. And this, again, is just another way to get those monsters in your graveyard. You need like a Dragon Shrine and a Foolish, or a Dragon Ravine and something, and then you get both those cards in the graveyard nice and easy. Next up, we have 1 copy of Dragonic Tactics. This card is used by Manjoume in the manga. Of course, in the manga, he has access to more level 8 monsters than we do. Dragonic Tactics, it is useful, it can be used, but it's not the best because we don't run a lot of level 8 dragons. If you wanted to add more level 8 dragons, that would be somewhat advised so that you can use this, but it's up to you, really. You can, of course, use it in combination with Witch Dragon to get those 2 tributes out nice and easy as well. Next up, we run 3 copies of Duality. Duality is a really strong card in real life. You can use it to tribute 1 light or dark monster, special summon a light or dark monster from your hand or extra deck with the same original type and level but different original attribute. This card we can use when it's also a quick play spell, and we can use it when our Light and Darkness Dragon's attack gets too low, like down to 300. Then we can tribute it to bring out one of our synchro monsters, namely your Dark End or your Light End. Wait, there's a different original attribute. So mainly your Dark End Dragon, or your Albalentus is another option as well. Next up, we have 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Again, gotta get those monsters in the graveyard. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, always good to bring back a dragon from your graveyard. You know, that's another option, another win condition. We can bring back our Burning Dragon, we can bring back our Genesis Dragon, we can bring back one of our Synchro monsters, I don't know, something like that, but it is another option, and it is, of course, a very strong card. Next up, we have 1 copy of Moon Mirror Shield. This is a bit of an interesting tech that I found. I'll go over a few different options you could use later, but if your Light and Darkness Dragon gets down to 300 attack, you can use Moon Mirror Shield, equip it to your Light and Darkness, which is just fantastic. Then Moon Mirror Shield's effect is that when the equipped monster battles, its attack and defense become equal to the attack and defense, whichever is higher, of the opponent's battling monster, plus 100. So it makes your Light and Darkness or any other monster able to get over anything by battle. And then, of course, with this effect, if it's equipped to Light and Darkness's attack will actually reset back to 2800 after the effect resolves, allowing its effect to go off continuously, and your opponent can't get over it easily by battle, which is great. But unfortunately, of course, you can only activate it once Light and Darkness's attack is too low to negate it. Next up, we have 1 copy of 1-for-1. This is just to get our Samsara Dragon on the field, which is just, again, another way to really just power out this Light and Darkness combo. Next up, we have 2 copies of Pot of Desires, Banish 10, Draw 2. It's a great card. We have 3 copies of everything that we need, and anything else we don't really need. So Pot of Desires definitely needed, as is 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Quite often you'll have 2 cards that you need, but you really need the 3rd one. This really helps out with that. Next up, we have 3 copies of Shadow's Light. Target 1 dark monster you control, special summon 1 light monster from your deck or extra deck with the same original type and level. So if you have your Dark End Dragon on the field, you can then use Shadow's Light to bring out your Light End Dragon, which is exactly how Manjoume uses it. It's a great combo, it's a lot of fun to just have these 2 powerful dragons out, and it's a lot of fun to use. So we definitely need 3 of them, and it is of course one of the cards that Manjoume uses in the manga. Next up, we have 1 copy of Terraforming to get our Dragon's Ravine, again necessary for the combo, and 2 copies of Time Tearing Morganite. This card is actually really helpful in the deck. Since Light and Darkness Dragon can only be normal summoned, you can't special summon it, you have to tribute summon it. This card gives us 2 normal summons per turn, which really helps with the summon of Light and Darkness Dragon, and also allows us to draw 2 cards instead of 1 during our normal draw during the draw phase. This is a really powerful card if you have no hand traps, of course, that's the downside, and it really helps out with the deck. Giving you 2 normal summons is just really powerful with this deck. And the main combo of the deck uses up a lot of your hand cards, so being able to draw 2 each turn really helps replenish your hand and just keep going in longer duels. Alright, next let's go into the extra deck, and then I'll go over some other options that you might want to include in the deck after that. So first, for our extra deck, we have 1 copy of Albalentus, the Abyss Dragon. This card can obviously be summoned with Duality, or not Shadow's Light, with Duality. And 1 copy of Albion, the Sanctifier Dragon, which can be summoned with Duality or Shadow's Light. 1 copy of Dragon Maid Sheo, again, same thing. You might want to include a House Dragon Maid in your extra deck as well, though it won't really help, like it won't really do anything, but it can be summoned with Dragon Maid Sheo's effect. It can be summoned with this card's effect, and just lets you continue off of those plays, but Dragon Maid Sheo is great for a extra just negate if needed. I did use it in the deck showcase video. If you want to check that out, click the card above. But yeah, this card is just really helpful for that. It's just another option. We can use Duality. If our Light and Darkness gets too weak, we can Duality, swap it out for a Dragon Maid Sheo or something, or Shadow's Light, bring out Sheo. Anything like that, you know, you can do that sort of thing. Next up, we have one copy of Bells of the Diabolic Dragons. We do this card again. Most of these cards are just summoned by Duality and Shadow's Light, so let's just get that out of the way. We have one copy of Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. This card is one of our level 7s, which we can summon with the effect of which we can summon with Destrudo. We have one copy of Dark End Dragon, one copy of Light End Dragon, and finally for our Synchro monsters, one copy of Kui Belt the Blade Dragon. This card is a sort of newish card. It's kind of cool. It's really cool. It doesn't do a whole lot. When it's synchro summoned, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. It's a level 7 dragon, so it works with the deck. And I mean, just like, look at it. It looks like Light and Darkness Dragon, right? It's half black, half white. It's got the same sort of gems that the Light and Dragons have. It works. Like, it really works with the deck. I think it's very fitting and definitely something that Manjoume will choose. Next up for our Xyz monsters, we have... Whoop, that's not an Xyz. We have one Dragon Knight Felgrand, one 107 Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, one number 23 Lancelot Dark Knight of the Underworld, and one number 38 Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Next up, finally, for our Link monsters, we have one copy of Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, great for Dragon decks, and is another card that you can just end on your first turn. One copy of Nightmare Phoenix, and one copy of Nightmare Unicorn. These cards are obviously great. I shouldn't need to explain any of those. They're just options that you can go into with this deck. Next up, a quick look at the side deck. It's not really a side deck, it's just different options. So the first option we have is a little bit of a Dogmatica package. We have Dogmatica Fleur-de-Lis the Knighted, along with Nadir's Servant to add it, and a Dogmatica Punishment works as well. These cards are great. You can use Nadir's Servant and Dogmatica Punishment to send a Titanclad to the deck or something, and send that and then use its effect to special summon Fleur-de-Lis. And if you don't know why Fleur-de-Lis, it's because with Fleur-de-Lis you can actually use it as a target for a Shadow's Light or Duality, which will allow you to go into Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. So that's fun. That's a neat little option for this deck. You can just go into, you can use Duality only, not Shadow's Light, my bad. You can use Duality to go straight into Dark Dragoon, which is always just a fantastic card. You know, you can never go wrong with the Dragoon. Gives you an extra negate, and it's just a really fun option. And of course, if you're going with that, you could also add a other entity in the Tis to get some more destruction off. These are just great options for the deck that you can swap out some of the lesser great cards for it, like, you know, your Lancer Lindworm, Armed Dragon. If you want to swap those out, you can, and go into this neat little combo instead, which is just a lot of fun, and a lot of people have been, like, that's one of the main things that people noticed when Duality came out. Next up we have Draconic Knight. This is a card that Manjoume uses in the manga. I originally included it, but I swapped it out to have more space for upgrading the deck, like our win condition and getting an extra win condition. It doesn't do a whole lot. It's an okay card, but it's not fantastic, which is why I didn't really include it over some of the other choices that we use. But if you want it to be a bit more Manjoume, then that's an option too. As is Fallen of Albaz. This also goes with our Dogmatica combo. I knew there was something else. So you can use an Nadir's Servant to send your Titanclad or whatever to the graveyard to search for Fallen of Albaz. Titanclad will then go into Fleur-de-Lis, and Fallen of Albaz can discard a card, Super Fusion, go into our Albion or our Albalentis with its effect. So that is a really cool option, and it is, of course, lets us go into Dragon Fusions, which is really cool, and I think just works with Manjoume. Another one of Manjoume's manga cards is Golem Dragon. Again, this card isn't really good. It has 2000 defense, which is neat. It's alright, and it protects other dragons, but only while face up, so it's okay. It's not a great option, nor is Blackland Fire Dragon. However, Blackland Fire Dragon isn't too bad of an option because it does combo well with Dragon Shrine, allowing you to get 2 cards out of your deck instead of 1. But overall, I wouldn't say it's worth it. It's a normal monster. It doesn't do a whole lot. It doesn't do anything. It has 1500 attack, so it doesn't do much at all. But yeah, it is an option, and it's not a completely terrible option. So if you want to be a bit more like Manjoume's deck in the manga, then there you go. You can add that in, and it works quite well. Another cool option you can use is Guardian of Felgrand. This card works well with Light and Darkness Dragon. Light and Darkness Dragon's final effect is that when it is destroyed, Yes, when it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target one monster in your graveyard, destroy all cards you control, and special summon that monster. So if you use that to special summon a Guardian of Felgrand, you can then use Felgrand's effect to, when this card is special summoned, equip one level 7 or 8 dragon monster from your graveyard to this card, and then it gains the attack and defense equal to half the attack and defense of the monster equipped to it. So you can use Light and Darkness to special summon your Guardian of Felgrand, or just normal summon him and equip it anyway. Equip the Light and Darkness from your graveyard. Guardian of Felgrand will gain 1400 attack, which isn't a whole lot, but you know, it bumps them up to 1900. And then when Felgrand is destroyed, you can use Light and Darkness's effect again, basically looping your Felgrand, keeping him on the field with 1900 attack, which is kind of cool. And he has a second effect that you contribute one monster and this card, then target a level 7 or 8 dragon in your graveyard and special summon it. This isn't as fantastic as we don't have a lot of level 8 dragons in our deck, but you can use it to summon Burning Dragon or Destrudo if you really want. Next up we have, of course, Star Liege Save for it. This is a decent option for the deck, but it's just not great. But if you want to use it, you can send any number of dragon monsters from your hand or field to the graveyard, add a dragon monster from your deck to your hand, whose levels equal the total original levels of the monster sent to the graveyard. So this can be used to search one of your dragons, which is kind of neat. That's a fairly decent effect if it's on the field. Or you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a level 8 light or dark dragon monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Again, this is another good way to get Light and Darkness in your hand, but it doesn't give you the extra normal summon that Samsara Dragon does. So it's not the best, but it is definitely a fairly decent option for this deck. Finally, other good options for this deck are Book of Eclipse and Forbidden Chalice. Book of Moon would also work well with this deck, but I chose Book of Eclipse because I think it's a little better. The reason these cards are fantastic is that, first of all, they're quick play spells. They can be used to negate your opponent's effects or flip them face down, shutting off their monster effects completely. But also, they can be used to negate your effects. You can use this card when your Light and Darkness gets too low. You can also use them in Chain as they're a quick effect. And then you can use it to negate Light and Darkness's effect, which will then actually reset its attack. That's a really neat effect right there. Like, you can set it face down, its attack and defense gets reset. You can negate its effect and then give it 400 attack. Its attack and defense will again be reset, allowing its effect to continue next turn and allowing it to not be so easily destroyed by battle. So these cards might actually be much better options than Moon Mirror Shield. It's really up to you. Honestly, I think they are better options than Moon Mirror Shield. The only reason I chose Moon Mirror Shield was because I thought it was a fun tech, and it does work with every other card in your deck. You know, it's not just solely for Light and Darkness Dragon, but you can use it with anything else to get over anything by battle, and it's continuous, so you can keep doing it. But these cards are quick play spells, so they work a lot better with Light and Darkness's effect. These are just great options. You can, of course, include multiple copies of them, which, again, I would recommend doing that as well. Don't know what to swap out, like Dragonic Tactics or one of these Manjoume cards that aren't really good. Yeah, and then chuck in a few of these, like 2 or 3 of these, or even multiple of each. Wouldn't be too bad. These are great cards and great options for the deck. So that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you do include any of these side deck options, then do let me know in the description which one you chose, you know, which one you prefer, what strategy you like to use with Manjoume, what is the most fun for you. But I wanted to make this as close to Manjoume's deck as possible, and I wanted to really focus on Light and Darkness Dragon, which the deck does. I have done all of Manjoume's decks, and of course, last Tuesday, just a couple days ago, I showed off this deck in action against meta decks. Next week, we will be looking at Manjoume's manga deck using manga-only cards, as in cards that were only used in the manga. We'll be including them. We'll have Light and Darkness's anime version, which can be special summoned. We'll have Light and Dark End Dragon, which are effect monsters in the main deck in the manga, so those are really cool. It's gonna be, like, it is the most powerful deck in the series so far that there will be. Like, it is really, really, like, stupidly strong, but of course uses manga only cards, so it can't be used in tournaments or anything, but it is a hell of a lot of fun to play, so do check that out next week. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of the deck. Let me know any additions or changes that you would make, anything that works for you, and thank you for watching. My name has been Senkara. Until next time. Later.